What's up, everybody? J-Heat Sports Media coming at y'all again with that fire as always. Spitting the hot topics and getting the sports conversation started. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Football, basketball, and boxing. Let's get into it. So, the University of Michigan, the Michigan Wolverines, their football program is making big headlines right now. All over sports, ESPN, other local news stations, about their coach being under scrutiny. The program as a whole, but it seems like really it's about Jim Harbaugh. Basically, they're being accused of cheating. According to reports, if you haven't heard about it yet, apparently they've been stealing signals from opposing teams. And the way they've been doing it is they've had staff members, or at least one in particular, a staff member that has been going to other teams, blending in with their staff and watching them practice, getting an idea of not only the plays they're running, but the signals that they call, the signals that they use when they're calling their plays, in order to take that back to Michigan and help benefit their team. Going along with this speculation, people are pointing out that the University of Michigan, while Harbaugh has had an overall good record at Michigan, I think he won well over 40 games. He had lost about 20-something games in his tenure there before this scandal supposedly started. So he had a pretty good record, but the margin of victory against teams was a lot closer. And he had lost games to the point where Michigan is the type of program that they're expected, when he came there, to put them in title contention. They need to compete with the Ohio States, the Alabamas, the Georgias, the big-time programs, Florida State, Miami, when they've been legit back in the day. That's where Michigan has a history of being, and where he was supposed to put them with his ability to coach that he brought from the NFL to college, to his alma mater. Now, he had never beaten Ohio State, also needs to be noted, before this scandal occurred. Since then, in the last 3 seasons, they've only lost 3 games, and they've beaten Ohio State twice. They also have had a larger margin of victory against all the teams they've played against. So now it leads people to believe that maybe there's some truth to this scandal, and maybe they have people's plays. Now, there's the side of people who are saying, and this is even people who used to play professional and college football, that this happens everywhere. University of Michigan has said other people do similar things. Not that they're admitting guilt to this specific scandal, but that it's commonplace and not beyond the pale that people try to learn signals of other teams and use that to help them prepare for games, so they'll know what you're doing when you're making certain signal calls. Sometimes the backup quarterback, it's their job to know the plays of the other team and to help the offense, or rather help the defense, prepare for whatever offense the other team is running. And they say you still got to stop a play. You have a matter of seconds from the time a play is called in and it's being run to stop it. And if you don't have the talent, and even if you know what they're doing, if you don't have the appropriate players in the game at that point in time, you may not be able to stop it. So is this really an unfair advantage? Who knows? The problem I have listening to people talk about it most recently is the punishment they're trying to hand down right now. It's under investigation by the NCAA and the Big Ten. So Michigan says they're holding pat. They're not rushing to judgment yet, because they want to let the people who oversee them, the Big Ten and the NCAA, let them make their decision on this. But there are others who are saying a suspension should take place immediately for Jim Harbaugh. Now, he isn't the one they're saying was still in the plays, but his staff did it, and they say, well, even though there's no evidence to point towards the fact that Harbaugh knew about this, if it indeed happened, they say, well, he's the head coach, it falls on him, he should know what's going on. Now, I don't know. if you hire private investigators, or how you track your players, your staff rather, not your players, at all points in times of their life to know everything they're doing at all times. There could be things that happen that you don't know as a head coach. I don't think you can always say if the staff did something that was illegal, that means the head coach should have known about it. What he does about it after he knows about it, that's a separate issue. Does he continue to go with it? So there's no evidence saying that Harbaugh specifically knew, but they want to say it goes on the coach, so he should be punished. And they're talking about suspending him possibly for a few games, which their next 3 games, 2 of them are Penn State and Ohio State, the biggest games of the season for them. Michigan's in the top 4. They're fighting for a chance to not only be in the playoffs, but the national championship. And if they lose one of those games, that will be affected. Now they say, well, it's on the coach. Stephen A. Smith on First Take said, you can't, and I agree with this partially, that you have to look out for the players of other schools that have been putting in the work, not just the teams Michigan has played already, but teams that are fighting for those playoff spots too, that might be in the 5 or the 6 spot. What about them? What if Michigan gets a playoff spot, ends up in the championship, wins the championship, somebody missed an opportunity to be in that top 4, and then we find out Michigan cheat? That's unfair, so the whole program should be ineligible for the playoffs, according to Stephen A. Smith. A lot of people got on him about that. People, other reporters, other players. We can't punish the players, they said. The players had nothing to do with it. Put it on the coach. My thing is, you can't rush the judgment at all. Stephen A. Smith said he's coming as harsh as he's coming, or in that manner, because he feels you need to put some pressure on the NCAA to make a quick decision and come to a resolution. Either say he didn't do it or say they did do it. But to me, you can't rush the judgment, because if you go too quick and you say nothing happened and then you find out later you were wrong and they went and won this championship, you look bad for rushing the investigation. If you say he did do it because you rushed the investigation and find out that that wasn't true, again, you look bad. So you got to do your due diligence. This is a serious allegation. You got to make sure you're right. But I also think if you're going to do any suspensions, it needs to be after the fact and not now, because we talk about head coaches, especially in college, whether that's football or basketball, as though even more than the pros, they matter. These guys are winning these games because these coaches are that great. And if you take Harbaugh out of the situation and tell him he can't coach for the 2 most important games of the season, they could lose just because he isn't playing and just because he isn't coaching, and is that fair to the players? So it's a lot to think about. I think regardless, if it turns out they cheated and they win the national championship, obviously it's going to be an asterisk there. People are going to feel cheated. But right now, where we are, you got to allow these guys to play, do the best they can, and don't sit Harbaugh, because the players need Harbaugh on the sideline if you're looking out for them, meaning the Michigan players. Let me know what y'all think. All right, that's all the time I got. Y'all know what it is, and you know who you looking for. J-Heat Sports Media. Remember to like, subscribe, or get at me in the comments. Let's go back and forth. You know I'm on YouTube, Instagram, X, and TikTok.